Når jeg blir 70, så skal vel ikke kjøre bensinmotorsykkel mer. Derfor tenkte jeg, la oss lage en elektrisk motorsykkel. I Capgemini kan alle lage kule ting med AI. Det du ser her, det er Norges første tunge elektriske motorsykkel, og den er Capgeminis testplattform. En av de kule ting vi har gjort med motorsykkel er at vi bruker AI for å gjenkjenne utrykningskjøretøy. Å kjøre elektrisk er en helt annen opplevelse. Jeg har masse kraft, masse hastighet, og jeg blir ikke så sliten av lyden. Har du forslag til hva vi kan gjøre med den? Bare si ifra til oss.
All right, hello everyone and welcome to our first webinar in Capgemini's Intelligent Automation Spring Series. We will now have 4 weeks of action every Tuesday at this very same time. And we are launching the series now with the topic called What's Trending in Business AI in 2020. I am Jaakko Lehtinen and I will be your host today. I'm heading Capgemini's Intelligent Automation Center of Excellence in the Nordics. And the webinar will take approx 40 minutes to go through. And like usually, please do ask questions from us. You can do it by using this GoToWebinar's Q&A functionality throughout the broadcast today. And we will cover the questions at the end of the webinar, but please keep them coming whenever you have a question. I'm really excited today to host my colleague from Capgemini Norway, Dr. Robert Engels, who is the CTO of Capgemini Europe Insights and Data, and he's also the head of Scandinavian AI Center of Excellence. I hope you enjoyed the video in the beginning about one of Robert's projects, which is, in my opinion, one great proof that Capgemini probably is much more than what you spontaneously are thinking about when you first hear our name. But today's topic, AI. Robert, you have been working with AI already for decades, as you tell also in your profile text. And then if I think from my perspective, the hype after the most recent AI winter again re-emerged only some years ago. So I have been curious that what kind of AI initiatives were you involved in already, let's say 20 years ago or in the beginning of your career? Can you please tell something about that?
Yeah, hi Jaakko, and thanks for having me at the webinar. And welcome to all of you. I'm very happy to be able to join this webinar together with all of you on a Scandinavian level. Like Jaakko said, I'm also working on the European level. My background is basically from 4 countries. So I'm born and raised in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, working at the University of Amsterdam. Then went to Sweden, to Stockholm, and did my PhD in Karlsruhe in Germany with Mercedes-Benz, after which I moved to Norway. I've been living like 20 years now. So yeah, Jaakko, you asked about the beginning of my career, which was on the AI side. I studied AI since 1988. So in the beginning, there was obviously a lot of algorithm development, trying to find out what we could do. Many of these algorithms are still there and they're still available and they're still used. Even if you think about very new developments or new developments from the last 10 years, like deep learning, there is still a lot of this algorithm that is the same as we developed in the 90s and used in the 90s. Although we have quite some different opportunities at the moment with internet, with data, with the strength and the power of the CPU. So there's a different possibilities, many new possibilities. But one of the things that we did in the 90s, which I see coming back now, which was quite cool, is explainable AI. So one of the first student assignments at the University of Amsterdam in 91, the first lecture on neural networks was actually, okay, so now you learned a neural network and can you actually make it explainable? And that was quite an interesting thing because it was related to ethics. We were making a neural network to define whether people could be blamed on being unemployed themselves or not, and then you would get more or less money from your community or the municipality. And this was actually an ethical question. So it was ethically and explainability that came together already at that time. So and we're still struggling with these issues in AI. So this is quite an observation that didn't really change yet. So
amazing, and we will later speak about what has changed already, and we have seen some progress despite of I kind of agree that the names for the topics seem to be having been the same for surprising long time. But what about the time in Capgemini? What is the coolest project you have done so far?
So the coolest project in Capgemini, we have different ones. Actually, when I joined Capgemini for 2.5 years ago, my quest was first to find the coolest project that we did, and then I found out after a long journey through the different organizational parts. It's a global organization, 300,000 people. So it took me a while, but then I found out that we are actually involved in launching the Ariadne rockets in French Guiana in Southern America. That was quite a cool project, I think, launching rockets. It's always good. Yeah. So that is one of the coolest projects I know about. On the Nordic sides with AI, where I was directly involved, I think the coolest projects that I've seen, one was actually with fish. So in Norway, the fish, how do you call it? Opdret, what's that? So in the fjords, they actually. I just don't know the word, Jaco. I'm sorry, but you produce fish in the Norwegian fjords, and they're under the water, and the tanks, or these are nets basically. There is like 10,000, 100,000 of fish in there, and we had a project where we worked together with a partner putting in cameras, 4K cameras under the water, to actually analyze the individual fish, so recognize the individual fish, seeing what their stress level was by analyzing videos, and actually the health status on their skin, the lice. There is like salmon lice in the fjord. So analyzing all the aspects underwater on say 10, 20 meters depth with a plurality of 360 cameras, which was quite cool. And the other one, I think I'm not going to tell about now because I think you will show a little movie later on. So I just leave that one for when we come so far.
Great, amazing. And this physics example also is that way, I think, really cool that these things really are not sci-fi, that you can observe the underwater animals with video analytics and really make something useful out of it for real, not only in theory. So pretty fascinating. Let's move on. I know you have seen plenty of AI initiatives across Nordics during your career. So what do you think about the current maturity of AI within the large Nordic companies?
Yeah, that is a very good question. I mean, of course, the Nordics are quite extensive and quite different. I mean, if you look at Norway and Sweden, Denmark and Finland, you have very different industries that are dominant in the different countries. So what I see if I work in, for example, in Sweden, there is a lot of manufacturing in our customers. We have Swedish furniture house. We have some car manufacturers as customers. What you see is they are really working a lot with making their data available and their data maturity, their platform availability across the organization. They've been working with that for years. The landscape is changing very fast, but they see that they have to evolve all the time on that area. And if you really look at AI, yes, there are many AI projects running, but a real mature end-to-end AI integration in the Nordics There is not many organizations that really have that yet in my experience. There is a lot of POCs, MVPs going on. Most organizations are actually also hiring and getting in-house competence on AI, so that is actually getting better and better. So which gives us much better opportunities to discuss AI as well with the large organizations. But bringing it out to the customers and bringing it out into the market and really monetize the AI advantages, that is still, for many of the large organizations in the Nordics, also a bit around the corner. Some exceptions there, of course, but yeah. We see a lot of movement.
Yeah, got it. Do you feel like the companies in the Nordics are anyhow different compared to anywhere else in the world? So who do you think are the best performers? Who show the example at the moment?
Yeah, that is a good question. I mean, if you look at Sweden, it is obviously a lot of manufacturing and FS, and in Norway it is the energy and utilities, and public sector is big in Norway. I think the public sector is quite interesting to mention, because I noticed on a European scale now with the COVID-19, when everybody was in lockdown, that we in the Nordics really are very digitally mature. This is something we have said for 20 years now, but we really are so. So in France, we had to educate our customers, some of the employees with our customers, on how to switch on the microphone in Skype. It's really on that level, because they're not digitally mature. In the Nordics, we have a public sector that didn't have any problems, at least in Norway. I don't know about Finland, but in Norway, no problems at all to start working from home. So we didn't really see any disruption in my experience in Norway. Whereas in Germany, for example, the public sector was not digitally mature. So these people were sitting at home and not able to do so much. So they had to bring it home, their paperworks and so on. So there's a different level in the regions on this. In Norway, public sector is quite good. Denmark, we have the financial sector and the service sector. They're also doing well. What we have seen is that the regional differences also reflect a bit on of course, which use cases you have for the AI. I mean, in the EUC, they use a lot of AI for oil drilling, which is very sensor based. If you go to the financial sector, of course, you have a lot of tasks around AML, anti-money laundering, that kind of task, customer experience for the big manufacturers. So there's a different focus on that as well. I think you see the regional differences. You see also the market maturing. I mean, the operations in Sweden are global operations. If you go to the large Swedish furniture house, it's a global operation, so it is running throughout the whole world. The AI initiatives are plural. There are very many different AI initiatives and very many use cases. It's very difficult to have a global AI end-to-end governed AI operations with MLOps and all that stuff. So that's a lot of work. And that is where most of these large organizations are, I think.
Yeah. And there is also a good link now when we speak about global usage of AI to legislation. Sometimes I have been hearing at least individuals claiming that we in the European Union are somehow losing the AI battle due to these privacy laws like GDPR, and then the succeeding effect that we wouldn't have the data available the same way as companies maybe have in some other countries. But do you really think it's the case? I mean, is it really a good excuse now, or what is your take on this?
On the GDPR?
Yeah, the GDPR and GDPR and the impact that you need to consider how to use the data, and you need a permission to access the data and use it in the way how you like, maybe in the AI system.
Yeah, of course. I mean, GDPR it is very important that we have ethics in AI. This is definitely a topic which is which is important for us as individuals and for us as societies. The problem we have on a global scale is, of course, that societies think differently about the ethical aspects of AI. There's basically a need, I think, to have a bit of a global feeling for how you want to use AI in your society and on a global scale. The European Union is setting some standards, which I personally feel is very good. We also see, of course, that it has severe consequences, or might have severe consequences, if you compare it to companies that are not obliged to keep these ethical guidelines and rules. But I think in the end, the ethics will win, because I cannot see a society where ethical guidelines are neglected, using a lot of AI, being a society that mankind wants to live in. So my strong opinion is that this will be taken over by many parts of the world. So I think it's a good thing what's happening, even though we feel that it's sometimes restricting in the application of AI. I think it's a good thing that we actually are thinking about this and seeing the consequences.
Now I somehow now link the ethical AI and legal AI together, but to me they feel like they of course they have a lot of similarity to the terms, but do you have any opinions on top of legislation? What other things should one consider now when speaking about ethical AI?
So we have different aspects of this ethical AI that we have to have a closer look on, and I think you can, if you can go to this next slide that we have, because I think what we have is these pillars that we have to have a closer look at. One is the GDPR, of course, which is very severe, and this is also, I still like this example with Google, where you might think that Google is so strong in the whole world and across all regions and across all nations that they can do what they want. But then Germany came, and in Germany it was not accepted that you actually could just put your own house on Street View without being asked. So in Germany, they really they sanctioned against Google, and now you can actually blur out your own house on the Google Street View in Germany. So having this kind of guidelines and this ethics, and also the possibility to protest and actually make your data private again, is very important, and it is possible. And I think we should be much more conscious about that. On the other hand, there is this fairness of data, the trust, the sustainability. You want to have data that you can trust over time. You want to be able to trust the companies using your data. There can be a fairness in use. So if you give me a lot, then it might be fair enough that you use some of my data. Maybe also the other way around. I can give you something and I expect something back from you. And the last pillar is the security and quality that we really should, of course, should have a very close eye on, because that is not secured at the moment at all.
Yep.
So
there is plenty to think about, actually, when you want to do it the right way. Yeah. All right. And now when we think about the typical Nordic company now, and who probably think now that they would want to start putting a real effort in transformation with the help of artificial intelligence, what would be your tips? How can they get started? What do they need to do first?
Well, what we see in the companies that we support in the Nordics, there is this triangle of skills in which your workforce, the data that you have available for machine learning, for example, but it might also be the information you have available for AI. We talk a lot about AI, where we actually refer to machine learning. So machine learning is typically based on learning scenario where you have a lot of examples. It's a trial and error process based on a lot of data. But AI is broader than that. I mean, the machine learning is part of the AI. But you also have the problem solving based on information and crisp knowledge, and knowledge that is probably not so much available, but maybe only one time, like a law, for example. So that's the kind of availability in machine readable formats of data and information. And the third thing in the triangle is the process and organizational aspects. And these three must come together. And what you see now is that AI was not very popular, became all of a sudden popular in 2012-13 when Google started to recognize cats. And then from that point in time, the university started to educate people. So they're now in the industry. I think the majority has like 2-3 years experience, data scientists and people. They're good people, they're smart. They know how to use the libraries and they know how to adapt them. But there's a lot of topics around the effort of implementing AI that are not so very well known and where there's not so much experience. And that is where we see our customers actually come back to us, because they have a department with data scientists, they have people that have some experience in algorithm and on the POC and MVP scale. But then if you want to scale up, it is difficult. If you want to implement ethics and all the aspects around AI, if you want to tackle the explainability, then it's a bigger problem. So these are also, I think, yeah, okay, sorry, no, I'll leave it to you. Yeah.
I was about to comment that what you are now explaining sounds like a very similar dilemma as we have with some other emerging technologies, which do not need to be AI, but some other new things that they are, in a way, many of them are so easy to use that anyone with basic IT skills can learn the basics, but there is still quite a long way to go to this kind of high volume, reliable, continuous operations with a business critical process. Am I interpreting you the right way now?
Yeah, there is quite a way to go. Although, of course, we do have the big vendors selling platforms and having good solutions which you might implement end to end. But in the moment, organizations that are larger, they always will have parts that are not integratable in that ecosystem. So how do you do that? There is specificity of solutions. So how do you get around that if you want to have your own custom solutions integrated in these platforms? So the platforms are solving a large part, maybe 60-70% of your tasks that you might want to solve, but you also want to have a competitive edge. And of course, that is where you actually have to be smart, and that is probably not always easily integratable with the large scalable solutions that you build up.
Yeah, good. Now, while the topic of the webinar are the AI trends that we see just at the moment, is there something else that you would still want to emphasize? There are quite many on the slide here, but is there something you didn't completely tackle already?
Yeah, I think the AI trends that I really see from my perspective on a global level, that is that there's, and from the global perspective of a consultancy house, is that many of our customers are getting more and more in-house competence. So that is good for both parties in such a cooperation, because we also see that our customers have a better idea of what they should order and how they should describe what they want to do. So the in-house competence is increasing, which is good on the AI algorithm part. We also see that our customers, most of them have or are doing AI POCs, MVPs. They struggle with the scaling. So the scaling part is definitely something that we're focusing very much on. So the governance of your AI applications, the MLOps, the scaling of it. And so how can you deliver AI as services, for example? That is parts where we are definitely seeing a trend. We have spoken about the ethics and all the issues around that, ethical AI. And the last part is explainability, which at the moment is quite a primitive explainability on machine learning. this should become much more intelligent explainability, taking into consideration context of the machine learning tasks, and will require a lot of more information. Some sectors already are working with that. We see that some sectors are more mature in using information into the process, the problem-solving part, the knowledge representation, the logic, semantics, reasoning on knowledge which is not based on big data. And that in combination with the big data machine learning cases will be one of the trends as well, I think. We see it very clearly. Yep.
Very good, and I am and have been a big supporter of getting things as a service, so that if the buyer doesn't need to mind about the technical details and learn the technologies, but just buy something and things are just working. And I know that you have been involved in launching this AI service called Capgemini 890. So could you tell a little bit about that one as well, and how can it be used today?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so what we do to support these trends that we see is, of course, we define a lot of accelerators. So we have service offerings that are actually virtual appliances or services that you can easily apply in your POCs and MVPs for specific tasks, like, for example, anti-money laundering or sound analysis or event analysis in video streams. So we make accelerators and service offerings for that, which we have available for customers that are clients that actually want to get a kickstart in their projects in this area that they're interested in. So these are several hundreds of cases on a global scale that we have available, with groups supporting them. And then what we could do in addition to that is this 890 platform. So there we have our complete internal infrastructure with SLAs and all the production equipment and teams and people to actually run AI as a service for our customers. So we have several customers that, for example, are looking for services for analyzing global social media data streams. So we can offer that quite out of the box. You can have AI analysis tasks, approaches for your video streaming. Now in the COVID cases, this is obviously, for example, the closeness of people on the streets, in the stations, in wherever, swimming pools, whatever you're opening up. So just to get an automatic analysis of how the situation is out there, do you have to do something or not? That can be delivered as services now through our 890 platform, which is run on a global scale. Yeah.
All right. So no own technology and own architecture needed for that. It sounds. We have promised to share some of the recent AI success stories and case examples. So we will now be moving to that topic. And Robert, we did some brainstorming with you regarding what would be the most exciting recent AI use cases that you have witnessed, and we decided to highlight a couple. And I will soon ask you to walk us through them, and the first one that we are going to see is actually a video, so you need to bear with me 15 seconds so that I get it running. And it seems like, Robert, we can see both AI and you in action at the same time, and you could maybe please explain to our audience that what's going on in here. But I will click the video running now.
So what you see here is my microphone muted itself again. So what you see here is one of our customers doing the medical equipment for training equipment for medical personnel in hospitals and ambulances. These are mannequins and they are IoT enabled, so there's a lot of sensors in them which are locally available. So these mannequins know quite much about themselves. Are they surviving or not? on the breathing, on the CPR, and so on. But what we do in the movie is also analyzing whether you're actually moving the teams around well enough. So which events are happening? Are the teams stressed? Do they communicate well? How is it if you apply the electroshocks? Are they actually retreating from the body far enough and not too far so that it's too slow coming back, and the patient will have disadvantages from that? So we do an automatic evaluation of the training situations, which has a goal that the teams will get a much higher volume of practice across the world, because they can practice without physical trainers having to be locally available. Yeah. So that was what you saw in the video, was a demonstration of that.
And then we have another one. What's so special about the next case?
Oh yeah. So this one is a global pharmaceutical. It's a large global pharmaceutical. And they are working, of course, with the quest. So one of the quests is to make personalized medicine. And for that, you really need to know about what you know. So you need to know about what you know. So this is typically started with something called data catalogs. So if you go to Microsoft or Google or other the big vendors, they do have data catalogs available for you. But these data catalogs do typically not include all the data and all the information that you have in your company available. So what this pharmaceutical is doing is actually, of course, building an oversight of what you know. So you don't know what you can't find. That's the typical slogan around that. But then also take it the next step. So actually gain access to the content models under it. Being able to have a holistic view on what you know in your organization across organizational parts and process parts, and then select the parts that you need in live data streams for your R&D, for your product development, for your marketing, for your sales, and so on. And that is quite an operation, because this specific customer estimates 30,000 different data sets, of which they probably know about 1,500 on a global scale. So 1,500 are really globally available and findable, whereas the rest is just like locally available, locally findable. So that's what's behind it, and we call that data for AI. So it's really a strategy to open up all the data so that you can use it in medicine, in personalized medicine, in development of new drugs, in finding cures for new diseases like COVID-19 and so on.
Yeah. Wow.
That's quite that's a very exciting project. That is really exciting.
Sounds like a really major one, and would fancy to ask like 10 follow-up questions, but I'm looking at the clock, and unfortunately we just need to go on with the plan. And if you want to know more about it, please let us know, and we are happy to discuss more about that later. We are going towards the end of the session today, and I want to remind our audience about the high amount of good quality AI reports that our own research institute has been publishing recently and constantly, and seems like more is coming out all the time. So the list that you can see on the screen that we were able to make fit here is just the tip of the iceberg. Robert, I'm sure you read also a lot about AI. So what do you think about these research institute reports? Do you have any favorites you want to especially recommend?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I like this research institute too. I do have an academic background, and it's really nice to see this academic topics related to the industry and where it goes actually. So the trends. I think the research institute is quite good in that. The ones that I really like is the ethics in AI and the impact on the workforce, because it's very relevant at these times. So I would really recommend those. For the rest, we have AI for different sectors. So this AI in retail is a good report, but I also like very much an AI report which is not on this list. It's the AI in automotive. That is my personal background as well, from Mercedes, I guess. But that's quite interesting to see, and we also see things in the world. Tesla is a very often mentioned example where AI is going in the car industry. But even Tesla is just using these cars as a POC at the moment, an MVP. Yeah? You would basically, if you really think about it, you wouldn't really let them drive autonomously on a German autobahn. Not yet, because they have no idea about themselves. So these reports are quite good to have a look at the trends and what we are doing. Yeah.
I also tried to memorize that which of these reports are the ones that I keep on returning to most often, but I couldn't really make a difference. I think I have opened all of these so many times, but if somebody forces me to just pick one, I would maybe pick this AI in retail report, and the reason is that they have quite a nice list of use cases, not only about the physical stores, but also about the logistics and supply chain and so on. So I keep on going there and taking some reference points. So that's a nice one.
I think if you need some inspiration, Jacco, the AI use cases is quite a good report to have a look at.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So we have the time for Q&A. So dear audience, please do send more questions to us. You can do it with the Q&A functionality of the webinar tool. Before we take a look at those, I want to remind you once again that our Intelligent Automation webinar series just started today, 4 weeks in a row, same weekday, same time. There will be a webinar about a burning topic in Intelligent Automation. And if you liked it today, I really recommend you to tune in next week again when one of my colleagues, Miikka Ruut, will tell you about process mining. Process mining is one of the technologies that is really pinpointing the real automation opportunities as well, and trying to get our emphasis from only having this FTE saving point of view towards real business metrics improvement ideas. And by the way, our dear colleague Petra has been posting the links that you have seen in the slides into the chat box. So you have the link both to the Research Institute and links to our webinar page on the chat. So please take a look if you are interested on either of those. Regarding the questions, there's a question, what are the most common tools used for AI implementations nowadays? Robert, any take on this one?
Well, what you see very much, this is also a bit different on what standpoint you have, where you start from. In the large organizations, you have analytics departments, and what they often use, if they are starting with POCs, they often use the libraries from, for example, from Google, GCP, the Jupyter Notebook approach, where you really have a kind of your own environment where you're working and experimenting and trialing and error and testing. But if you roll it out on scale, we see different trends, of course. And for example, take Norway as an example, we see a lot of Microsoft Azure tools there. So Microsoft is definitely very much in the space there. But this is also very sector specific. So we do see from country to country and sector to sector, we see a different preference for the big four. Some take Microsoft, some take Google. Amazon is there with TensorFlow and so on. So those tools are very popular, but you cannot solve everything with it. So you obviously, if you really want to do your competitive advantage again and go a bit beyond what these tools are offering you, you have to make your own integrations and your own tests efforts. And then this kind of working is popping up with like I said, with Jupyter Notebook, that kind of customized environments. Yeah.
Good. And let's take still another quick one. So regarding the latter use case, data for AI. or the AI strategy, do you have any tips how to find that data? You said it was all around the globe, so where do you find it?
There's two things. I mean, there's a lot of open data. So there are actually sectors where you can find a lot of information as open data. There is something called open link data, which is, for example, very big in census data and very big on life science. So all the human genome is completely published in machine-readable format. The proteins, drugs, there's a lot of stuff completely automated, available through open data sources. If you do it internally, there is a lot of technology popping up. I'm personally very much working with knowledge graphs at the moment, and knowledge graphs. As a concept, they can mean two different things. One is actually property graphs that use graph structures in data. So they, for example, find the path from transactional data from A to B for anti-money laundering, for transaction data in telco. That is a graph usage that goes on the topography of the task, the graph, and the mathematics behind it. Find the node which is most central and that kind of stuff. The other one is the use of graph for representing your knowledge. So there you use semantics and reasoning. So you have subjects, predicates, objects. You try to analyze them. You try to reason with them. You can represent law in that sense and hook it up to your own data and see where your data accords to law or not. So we see these different uses of knowledge graphs. That is something that I really see as a trending topic at the moment, and where we are doing a lot of work with our customers. Yeah.
Good. So time is up. It was really a pleasure to have you with us today, Robert. So thank you very much, and especially very big thanks to our dear customers and other contacts who had their time and interest today. If you liked it, I recommend once again, please join again next week with another burning topic regarding intelligent automation. And see you around. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for having me, and good luck with the series.